Welcome to the Born Primitive Outdoor Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Snyder, and today I've got a couple guests, but before I introduce those two gentlemen, one of the things I wanted to do on the podcast was a podcast talking about all of the gear that I found in 2025 that was worth mentioning. And as most people know, I'm kind of a gearhead, and that doesn't happen very often. So I have a podcast coming out that'll come out probably right before this one of the top gear that I found that was worth mentioning. And one of those was the Kapture kind of phone scope adapter. I'd never really seen it before until I was at the Western Hunt Expo. I was told that it was going to kind of revolutionize or take over the industry. I never believed that shit. So I went over and took a look at it. It was definitely all it was cracked up to be. And so now I have the gentlemen, or a couple of the gentlemen that were at the show, and it's Kapture with a K. So introduce yourselves, tell everybody about you guys, your background, and the products. I'm very excited about this, and that does not happen very often.
Yeah, who do you want to go first? You want to go first, Rob?
No, you can go for it, buddy.
So I'm Eric. I'm kind of the original founder, the seed idea, and I've been in the hunting industry my whole life. It was a pleasure to meet you, Aaron, at the show, and that was kind of our big unveiling for the product. And so I've always loved hunting. I've always loved the hunting industry. I'm like you. I love gear that we use on the mountain to help us connect there. And so it's just been a long time coming, so we're excited to finally be here and talk about it.
And I'm Stephan. I'm new to the hunting industry. As about 7 years ago, I started to get into it. So I'm focused more on business and found hunting as a new passion about 7 years ago. I didn't grow up hunting and don't come from hunting roots or hunting family, but it's become a passion of mine. And to be part of the Kapture group and crew is exciting. So excited to be here and with Eric. Glad he let me come along for the ride.
Gotcha. So we're not going to ask you about any like how to survive in the wild. That's not. You're more of a how to survive in a cubicle.
Yeah, no, I'm a card carrying Eagle Scout, so I can last in the outdoors. I've always loved camping, but. Yeah, if you want me to go on the survivor, or the last man standing, I'll let somebody else do that.
How many words can you type a minute? That's important.
My wife types significantly faster than me, so it's not a very good metric if that's what we're going after. So
I guess, yeah. So Eric, this was kind of your brainchild then?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to have that mindset of when you're using gear. I'm sure you're the same way. It's like, you use something and it's either awesome or there's opportunity for improvement, and you're always like, why don't they do this, they do that? And finally it was the light bulb went off, and it's like, why don't I do this? And it was I was hunting in Nevada. I used to guide here in Utah a ton, and before they had the late season hunts in Utah, I went to Nevada and guided for a friend. And I was taking a guide there, an older gentleman, and then he shows up with like a 375 H&H for his elk hunt. And I'm like, bro, like this is late hunt. We're not bow hunting, Anyways, we take him out, and we're obviously not going to get this guy where we need it. And we used one of the guide's guns, and this was like, I'm a veteran guide, and I made a stupid mistake. We're set up on this bull, and I had been using a competitor's product, kind of the OG product, and my phone had actually, during the process of letting him shoot this elk or watching him shoot this elk, it slid off my spotter and broke. Then he missed the bull, and I kind of dialed the gun wrong on the dope. I'll admit that. It was my fault. So in the chaos of that, my phone had fell off and broke. And so that's where the seed idea came from. Because then I was pissed that I was an idiot and screwed up this elk hunt, and then my brand new phone had broke. That's where it started, was back in like 2015 in Nevada.
So just so everybody understands, like, kind of skipping probably too far ahead really quick, when you look at what these guys are doing, there's been, and I'll mention there's other phone scopes on the market. There's the actual phone scope and All In. Those are, I would say, two of the more well-known, and I've used them both. there's downsides to both of them. In my opinion, there's downsides. The all-in was definitely what I had considered until using yours. Kind of fixed a lot of the issues that I had, but there were still issues. One of the primary issues was you couldn't use all of the lenses. So when you look at your phone, you've got 3 little circles on the back, which are like macro and wide angle or whatever else, and you couldn't zoom in or back out with that, and you had to adjust your phone settings at times. It's still good product. And then obviously the case was a little bit more cumbersome because you had a giant circle or square sticking off of it, which was a problem. As far as the actual scope, when you go to your spotting scope, pros and cons to everything. You add some dimensionality when you use the all-in. So I'm gonna stop rambling on. You guys kind of take it away of the issues you fixed with the Kapture, and how that works, so people kind of understand, like, okay, it's better. How is it better?
Sure. Yeah, so, no. So I mean, you identified some of the problems that we did. So we looked at this whole Digiscoping market from the ground up, and we took each problem that we all were frustrated with and all of the feedback from other people, and started identifying those and figuring out solutions for that. And so it evolved from what everybody else does, right? They all use an oversized or friction fit adapter, and it's great for an attachment, but there's a lot of problems. I don't like glassing through it. My biggest hatred was when I found a target to find or to start filming. When you go and put that oversized adapter on, it moves the scope off target, and sometimes you only have 10 seconds to film an animal, and you lose it by trying to attach it on. So Kevin and Dave really pioneered that, as they saw each optic, almost every optic has a metal shelf between the rubber eye relief and the lens, the ocular lens. And we utilized that space and removed and eliminated the oversized adapter. So that was probably the biggest integration or biggest innovation that we solved, was not having to have an attachment that you have to add when you're ready to film. So ours is always ready to go. And the other brainchild was a lot of the higher end optic brands, the eye relief comes off. So we actually buy that from the manufacturer and reassemble our connect piece inside. And so some of those brands, you can just remove it and thread on a new OEM piece. It looks just like a factory eye cup. It works exactly the same. Doesn't restrict your eye relief or your use of the optic. And then for Vortex, we just add a tape-on ring, which is like a VHB tape that's super secure, and it's a foam tape, so it's non-abrasive. It doesn't remove your finish. So that was the biggest, I guess, piece that we wanted to solve. And then Rob nailed the phone case, and I'll let him explain the approach on the phone case.
Well, hold on before we skip to the phone case, because I want to make sure people understand. I think once you use this long enough, you kind of forget. People are listening here and going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? So when you look at your eyepiece or your objective, with the other adapters, there's different attachments that you have to have. So when you look at the eyepiece, when you have the rubber ring around, inside that rubber ring, there's a metal shelf. And what you guys did is have 2 options. You personally, your company, Kapture, purchased these, and you can buy an eyepiece from you guys that already has the attachment on that little metal shelf, or you can, in your kit, attach that metal shelf with the higher end 3M tape, and it'll stick right to that metal ring just outside of the glass portion of the eyepiece. So you can buy the eye cup, or you can just stick on the attachment piece in the kit. So before we move on to the case, I want to cover each part and piece. With the durability wise, how much difference in durability, or is it just ease of attachment for someone looking at purchasing this? How much of an upgrade is it from having the stick-on portion that you can stick on yourself to buying the eyepiece that you guys offer?
Sure. So, okay, go ahead, Rob.
For me, I actually use both, Aaron, in the system that I run. So I'll run the integrated on my spotter, my Swirl spotter, and then I'll run the stick-on or the Connect ring, mount ring on my binoculars. And the only major difference between the two is about the width of the tape, which is about 1 millimeter. So the integrated one is a little more flush, and the stick-on one's up 1 millimeter. Or if you have the eye relief out at all, you won't really even notice it. And we did a lot of testing on that VHB tape too, because that's what some people ask is, well, hey, is this tape going to stick on? Is it not going to stick on? And we actually did a lot of testing. So
I'll talk about that before we go to the case. So one of the things, because it's in the off season, I can't go hunt in the desert and the Arctic and whatever else. I can only test what I can test, in I guess you'd say static controlled environments. So for me, I hate speaking about anything without testing it long term, but there's ways around that. And so one of the things was like cold weather, which cold weather in Wyoming right now, easy, no problem. Like we've had multiple negative degree temperature days. Would the cold weather affect that 3M tape? And keep in mind, I'm very experienced in 3M tape, whether that be from sticking things like clickers on and things like that to a recurve that, can pull off easy, to many other different options, Velcro, everything else. So there's different grades of 3M tape. You've got the poverty level grade, which is, let's say, a 10-pound adhesive, and then you keep going up and up. So you guys use the very high-end 3M tape, which is good, but that still doesn't mean that much until you've tested it. So the cold weather was easy. I threw it in the freezer, but Wyoming's actually much colder than my freezer, so I just left it out overnight. Several nights and I say a few nights and just left it on there and no issues. So the other thing that I knew could potentially be a problem was heat, but I have a sauna. And so the sauna solved, because I am never going to hunt ever, I promise you, in heat hotter than my sauna. And so I tested that up to about 170 degrees. And I say my sauna is a dry sauna, so there's no humidity in there. So I didn't have any issues with the testing of that, and that was something that I initially was like, this would be a potential problem to look for. So I could eventually get the tape to come off if I was specifically reefing on shit I shouldn't be after that 150 degree mark. But there's no way that I could see that anybody would ever get that to come off in any environment you would ever hunt in, unless you were actually trying. And when I say trying, putting a knife in there and peeling it off, putting a blow dryer on it and spinning it in circles, trying to get it to come off. I hadn't really talked to you guys about this, but what was your testing and what did you guys find with the attachment kit that comes with it?
Yeah, so we had a broad range of just our contacts in the industry and guys that are, professional guys and do this for a living. And we sent it to them and told them to beat it up and find the failure points. And so we had different environments, different users' feedback. And so we just gathered all that as the test went out. But the VHB was pretty slick. I mean, we really didn't have any issues. I was guiding in Idaho at the time for 3 months straight and for 2 years before we really even started the production. So I already had a pretty decent base for using it every day in those elements.
Gotcha. Well, right on. All right. So that's a non-issue again. So that was something I tested and wanted to look at. So now moving on to the case, Rob, do you want to go ahead and kind of take over what you did with that?
Yeah. Well, the other thing to also focus on the adapter side, the mount side of it, is there's no magnetics in our adapter side. So to kind of cover a few other great points on it. So you don't have to worry about putting it down in the ground in the ferrous metal and it's in the dirt getting up on your lens or anything like that. We don't put any magnets in our ring at all. So you don't ever have to worry about that. And that's one of the great ingenuity ideas that Kevin and David came up with. So it's actually pretty sweet. There's a whole bunch that goes with the eye cup. We could go on for hours just specifically on the mount ring.
So the eye cup is just metal and the case is the attachment on the case is magnet.
Correct.
Okay. Correct. But you can detach. Well, I'll let you take it over on the case side.
Yeah, and you can detach. It's a full magnetic system, so it comes on and off just like what people are used to with other magnetic systems that are out there. But and Eric covered it some, but the important thing to note too is since we're not attached to the eye cup itself, like the rubber itself, the way we mount with that connector ring, you can use your optic just like you would normally. So you can have your eye relief out, you can have your eye relief in. It doesn't affect the angle of the camera. Like on other systems that, as Eric was saying, is the overmold that goes on the outside. If you have your eye relief up and you've already clocked your phone to where it needs to be for that adapter for the magnets or whatnot, you have to push your eye relief all the way back down, and sometimes that'll slip or move. And with our system, we're completely independent of any eye relief movement usage. You don't even know if you don't want a digiscope and you just want to use your optic normally, you won't even realize that you're ready to digiscope because that adapter is so small and fit. So it's quite a smart idea. The story that Kevin tells when he came up with the idea is humorous. But anyway, yeah, they did a great job when they designed that system.
Gotcha. So talk about Go ahead.
So fast forward to the phone case, right? As you alluded to, Aaron, in regards to other phone cases that are out there from other systems, is they always blocked some functionality, whether that was one of the 3 cameras, whether that was the flashlight, whether that was some of them have LiDAR for measuring. Like, there's a whole bunch of features that all these phones come with now. And every other system out there takes 1 or 2 of those features or all those features away. For example, if I'm at home and my wife wants a selfie of something and I turn that phone around, I want to use the wide angle lens. Well, I couldn't do that. And so what everybody always has is a hunting case and a everyday case, right? That's just this industry standard. Hunters now, they just have come to accept that I'm going to have my everyday case that I take to work, and I'm going to have my case that I take out hunting. And when I'm hunting, I compromise on the other features, but when I'm at home, I'm good to go. And so we wanted to solve that problem, and that's what we did. So our case, if you were not digiscoping, you wouldn't even realize that you were ready to digiscope. It's a full premium case that comes with all the features that you would assume a premium case would have. It has a soft touch feel, has metal buttons. It's wireless charging compatible, so you can wireless charge however you want. It's got the MagSafe magnets on the back of it, so it's compatible with all your MagSafe accessories that you would have. And then when you are ready to glass, that's when you slide. So if you can picture for the people at home, right around the camera, we have what most cases have, and that is there's a ring that protrudes just barely above the lenses on most cases, and that just protects the lenses from being damaged or scratched when you put your phone on a desk or a table. And so our system has a rail built into to that lip that is raised up. And so when you're at home, you can use the phone case just normally. And when I'm ready to glass, I go out and I slide my adapter along that rail, and I'm ready to glass.
So I just want to put a little bit more context into this. When I say this, so someone like me that loses shit frequently. So for me, the potential of you can leave that on all the time. You do not have to take it off. So on the case, you have this little square dealio that just slides on, snaps into place, and you're good to go. If you don't leave that on and you lose it, one of the things that I would suggest to people, it's not, out of the question, have that piece if you're worried about losing it, because you definitely want it to slide off and on just to keep it in and out of your pocket, and everything else to have a functional, phone case, is to have a backup in your possibles pouch, like have an extra. I personally am going to do that when I'm in the field. The other thing that's not, a horrible idea, when you're looking at this or whatever, when I say have an extra one, you can use the same, if you have multiple different spotting scopes. So let's say you're guiding and one guy's got a Leica or one guy's got a Swaro, one guy's got a Vortex, whatever. Each case will snap on to each different piece or it will not. Each IP or each slide on portion of the case, will one work with every spotting scope if the spotting scope has the correct capture eyepiece, or how does that work?
Each phone, the frame around each phone is the same. So our adapter that attaches to the phone is universal. The optics, so we have actually 5 sizes, and maybe a few more coming out with some other brands. But so the optics are size. They're related to size, so 1 through 5, and that just depends on the size of the ocular lens. So there's a lot of transition. If you had a Koa and a Maven S1 or something, they're size 4s, and so you could go between optics without any changing of any of the parts on any of our systems. So once the adapter's on, all you do is swap out the mag rings depending on what optic you're using. Was that what you're getting at as far as the usability for different optics?
Yeah, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't doing a great job of explaining it. If your buddy has a whatever, I don't know, Maven or SIG or Vortex or whatever all you guys options you have, you can use the same case. You would just have to have the one square piece that attaches that's applicable to the ocular of his spotting scope and interchange it out on your case to work with their spotting scope and vice versa.
Yeah. So if we were in the hills and then we both had the capture case and different, even if and the right mag rings for our optics, yeah, we could go between them with us because the parts are all compatible with each other.
And the reason that's so important to have different ring sizes is our competitors have basically the same size for everything. So whether it's going on an ATX or whether it's going on a pair of NL Pures, I have that huge adapter that goes around, that fits around my ATX. Well, that same adapter width is going to have to go around my NL Pures. So it makes using these optics between them, it makes it nearly impossible because you're not going to put that huge adapter around a pair of NL Pures and then fit your nose in between the two lenses. It's just not going to happen. So we size ours specifically for the optic so that you don't have to have that bulkiness around. And then all you do is if you've got it, let's say your NL Pures are size 3 and my ATXs are a size 5. All I'm going to do is on the back of my adapter, I take off my size 3 ring and I put on my size 5 ring and I plop it on the ATX. If I want to go back to the NL Pures, I just swap off that 5, put on the 2, and I'm right back on they're put on the 3 and I'm right back on the NL Pures. So it's super fast, super easy to swap between them, but it's imperative so that you don't have big, bulky, oversized, extra items interfering with how you would normally want to use your optics.
Yeah, and I don't want to confuse the listeners. Like, we just threw a whole bunch of models and sizes, and we have a size chart on our website that identifies the optics. And each part has either a set of dimples or a number, so it'll correspond. So you know exactly if you looked at your eyepiece on an ATX and you saw 5 dimples, then you would just need to find your mag ring with the 5 dimples on the side and match them up. So the numbering system, I don't want it to get over inundated with, because you got to kind of learn it like we have, but the sizing chart will identify all those, but each part has a number to indicate the correct mate.
No, that makes total sense. So, I mean, with hopefully with what we've talked about so far, because I wanted to make sure this was as detailed as you could get without visuals of why this is something that I think, I don't know, groundbreaking is a strong word, but it definitely fixes a lot of issues. Can you guys talk about I know you had mentioned already, but all of the options that you guys are compatible with right now that are on the market?
Oh, it's a huge list.
Yeah, I mean, we have all of the new Swarovski products. All of them are, we work with them. So we have all of their models ready to go. The Koa is nice because it's one eye cup for all of the TSN models. So it's one eye cup for all of them. And there's only two, I think, optics, Rob, that you can't use either option. So we have 95 to 98 optics, I think. I don't know exact number. That'll work with all of our stick-on rings. And so I'll get back into the brands, but you can use either or, just depending on what the user wants to buy. But we do the Maven, we do two Mavens, but we can support all of the other Mavens. So the S1, 3, and the S2, we do an integrated cup. And all of the Mavens, you can also use the stick-on ring for any of those. All the Vortex. What else we got? We got Bushnell, some Night Force, Athlon, Alpen,
Rebec, Leica, Bushnell, like you said, Burris, Alpen, Athlon, basically all of them, because it's universal. Because that our sizing 1 through 5 is universal. It's not, it works across a wide breadth of optics. So the only thing that limits us is really the phones that we support. And so we're in the process now of supporting more and more phones. Every phone that we add to our system takes quite a bit of research and development to make sure it fits our high standards. But so right now we support the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max, iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, iPhone 16 Pro and Pro Max will be out in about 4 weeks. I don't want to, Aaron, you hate giving dates out, right, on stuff that's getting made, but that should be out in about 4 weeks. That's in production right now. And then we also support the Samsung S23 Ultra, the S24 Ultra, and right after the iPhone 16 drops, we'll have the S25 Ultra also drop. And we'll go backwards from there as sales continue. But as you know, we launched in November, and the reception has been fantastic. We sell out quite frequently. If you go to our website, you'll see that we're just excited. So, and every week that goes on, every month that goes on, people say, "Hey, do you support this optic?" And they send us the measurements. And we say, "Yep, we do. This is the size ring that you'll want for that." And we throw it on the website. And anyway, so you can see all that stuff. If you go to KaptureGear.com, scroll down to the very bottom, there's a sizing chart there, and you can see all the hundreds of optics that we support right now.
And then you have
binoculars. So
you have a YouTube page as well for tutorials and things like that, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So you can go to our YouTube. It's Kapture Gear is our YouTube channel, or just search on YouTube for Kapture Gear. And then we post a lot on Instagram too. Instagram is where you get a lot of the shorts and stuff like that too. So, and that's also the same Kapture Gear for Instagram.
Gotcha. So talk about the binoculars for a minute. I don't personally really use. I'm just the spotter guy. When I mean that, I don't usually. I say usually. I've never attached anything to my binoculars. I just use my spotter. But people do, and you guys offer that as well, where you can attach it to certain specific binoculars.
Yeah. So for me,
go ahead, Rob.
So for me, that was a difference maker, because I only ever took my spotters out in the field when obviously I haven't been doing this for forever, but that's all I did for the first 3-4 years was take a spotter out. That's what everybody else did. So, and I used another system to record video. And so it was just on that. And I never really thought about, recording anything on my binoculars, because every system out there was just clunky and horrible. And so when this came along, and I saw this about 3 years ago is when I got my first demo kit on this one. I actually stopped taking my spotter out, and I started just glassing primarily with binoculars. It's so much easier. Like, that's why BTX is so popular, right? It's because you have the dual lenses. It's so much easier to glass for 6-7 hours on a hill with binoculars than it is to glass with a spotter. And so being able to use my binoculars as they're ready to glass right out the gate, and not have to worry about any additional adapters or anything like that. I use it normally. I have actually left my ATX at home for the last 2 years every time I go glassing. So the key is it doesn't interfere with your standard usage of binoculars. There's literally no change. So you don't even notice that the mount is installed. And then saving the weight and being able to zoom in, since you can switch. And we haven't even covered that yet, Aaron, but the other great feature about our system is that you can switch between the 1X, the standard zoom lens, and the iTelephoto zoom lens, that your iPhones and your Samsungs have.
7X or something on an iPhone. I can't remember. And that is an issue with other adapters as you get to, I think it's 4.5 or 5, and it swaps the lens. Anyway, it doesn't work. It swaps over from one little lens to the other, and then it blocks it out. And the same thing when you go to wide, it does the exact same thing. So you can use the full zoom on your iPhone as well. So if I had an ATX 115, which goes to 75 or 80 power, whatever it is, I can zoom that all the way in and zoom.
That's full zoom.
Full zoom. Yeah. Did I lose you guys, or is that an awkward silence?
Nope. You're there. I thought we lost you.
Yeah, no. So you can go to full zoom. So again, I want to do just a brief recap. I wanted to keep this relatively short, so we weren't going down too many wormholes, not talking about the product, what it covers. So for me, whether you're using whether you're using a binocular or a spotter, for me, as a photographer, obviously it's a totally different game if I'm going out in the wild with my camera gear. And my camera gear is very expensive, meaning you can buy a car with my big zoom lens. Or when I say zoom, I've got a 400 and a 600, and they're both about 13 grand each. For the lens, not the body. The body's another 35 to 6,500 for the photography side of things. And I get that question a lot, that, hey, I want to get into outdoor, photography. What do I need? You need a lot of money because it's expensive to get high-end photos with that. You're not going to get as high-end of a photo through an iPhone and an ATX as you would what I have, but you're close. And for the budget and overall spending, you're far better off, and I suggest this to people, to use or upgrade your phone. And if you're a hunter, which obviously pretty much everybody talking to me is a hunter, and getting a spotting scope or a upgraded spotting scope, or using your current spotting scope, especially if it's a good one, and doing outdoor photography that way, because you can get some amazing footage and photos with this system. And even when you're in full zoom, it may not be the greatest footage or the greatest photo, but it's pretty damn good. And that is my suggestion to people, more than trying to, you're just not, if you're going to spend $1,500, let's say, or your budget's $3,000, you're not really getting anywhere, where if you already have a good spotting scope, you're just looking at buying the Kapture system and going to be doing outdoor photography that way. So I wanted to mention that on the photography side. The next thing is, when you're looking at like this full system, the first thing that it really fixes is having the giant bubble sticking out of your ass if you're putting your phone in the back pocket, because you can detach the attachment system. The next thing that it covers or fixes is you can use all of the lenses and you get full zoom out of it, and you can go to wide angle. So if you go from, in my case, I'm behind the spotter, I want to get a photo of what I'm looking at, right? And I want to go way wide to get the full landscape. And then I want to pop it on and then zoom into the animal so people can see. And then I want to go over, and my buddy has snot dripping out of his nose, pop it off, wide angle, whatever I need to do, zoom way in with the camera or the phone. I can use all of that. The next thing is the attachment system on the actual spotting scope. There is no extra bulkiness or whatever else, and it is attached at the correct angle all of the time. So with mittens on, you're cold, you can't feel your fingers, you can't do shit. it still snaps on magnetically in the exact correct spot every time. So you don't have to worry about farting around, with that. So that is another, great option. The next thing is, if you have that system, like we talked about before, you can attach your phone with the correct attachments to any of your buddies that are guides or hunters or whatever else. So it's very dynamic in being able to use multiple different systems, spotting scope systems or whatever, at all times. Those were all the things that it fixed that I saw. I don't think I'm, missing anything, and it's not so god awful expensive for what you get as well. So now, kind of shifting over. Did I miss anything there? I think I covered it all? Did I miss anything that you guys fixed?
No, dude, you're hired, man.
Okay,
We
so
can start.
Next thing is price. What is the cost of this?
Entry level for a full setup, you're about $240 for the tape on, and then the integrated is run all the way up to $350. So that's your price range. It just depending on what you want for the user setup, and that's a full system setup. That's a phone case, the universal adapter, the correct mag ring, and the ocular attachment.
And what's important there is, and it's expensive, and we understand that to get into the system just starting out. But where you save all the money is on your second optic. Where we're competitive is on the second optic. Everybody else, if you buy, you get your first system. Let's say you're in another system for about $180. You have to pay for the adapter. That's $140, and you have to pay for the phone case. It's like $40, $50. Let's just say it's $180. Well, if you go to your second optic, that's another $140. Your third optic, that's another $140. Where for us, if you've got the magnet already, it's $30. So you can our kit to get in is like $240, but you can do 2 optics for $270. You can do 3 optics for $300. Because all you need to buy is that additional ring, assuming you have the magnet that matches it, right? And if you don't, then that's just, $50 more for the magnet. So it really becomes, if you want to outfit your entire arsenal and be able to use it on any optic, it is the most economical option. And then seeing how everything in our system, other than this phone case, is aircraft grade aluminum with a lifetime warranty. That's what's really important to us, is we wanted to create a community around it where people know that they're always protected by our word and by what we say and what we do. So if you break this, if you have an issue, you have a problem, anything ever happens to it, just send it in. We'll send you a new one. Just like that. We don't ask questions. We don't worry about it. We're not going to argue with anybody. Just, there's some great manufacturers out there ahead of us that have pioneered that warranty vision, and we've adopted that in what we do. So.
Yeah. And you mentioned expensive. It's not that expensive. And when I say that, I'm not saying $300 is not expensive, but I'm saying for what you get out of it. And in comparison to, other options as well as the warranty, it's really, again, looking at getting into wildlife photography, you're going to have to sell a testicle and start an OnlyFans page, where with this, you are kind of doubling down. Even if you get, instead of getting, camera gear, you buy a spotting scope, and this system, you're thousands ahead. And you get, again, it's not quite as good, but it's pretty damn good in comparison. So it's really not that expensive. And really, if you buy a spotter, most people, unless you're like me testing gear all the time, if you buy a spotting scope, especially a high-end one, you've got that probably longer than your wife, the way the world works now, whatever divorce rate is, right? So you've got that spotter for a long time. The only thing you're really upgrading at that point is a phone, and it's just the case. The other portion snaps off and on. So long-term investment, dollars to days, pennies to days, it's really not that big of investment if it's something you're really, into. And I always try to put context into that. If you've got a spotter for 20 years and you just keep upgrading phone cases, you're less than a penny a day by the time you're done, if you looked at renting it in reality. So being able to upgrade the phone and just swapping the actual case portion is very, very, especially with iPhones. Like, you blink, it's fucking brand new iPhone, right? So that is very valuable as well. So it's really not that expensive. again, which is why you're on the podcast, because I thought this was pretty crazy. So when I saw it.
Yeah, no, we have that same view. We just understand that, economics is a relative term as far as expensive or not expensive, because, you go out and buy a new optic with everybody else, you're spending $150 just to get that optic going. But for us, it's $30 for your second optic. It's, whatever the phone case is, $50 for the phone case when you get a new phone. So it's, everything's modular and works together. So it really is a lifetime system. It's not a one and done system. Use it for a couple of years and go on to the next one. So
yeah, no, 100%. Well, fellas, we covered everything that I covered in this podcast. Honestly, I didn't know if this podcast was going to do worth a shit, because how do you keep a conversation going about an adapter for your phone? But we hit 40 minutes and it was not boring, so that's good. Tell everybody where they can find you, the website. Again, it's spelled with a K, like I learned in Oregon, how to spell Kapture. So the website, social media, that kind of stuff, just for people to take a look. Don't speak all at once. Let's go, boys. Come on.
It's Kapture Gear. KaptureGear.com, again with a K. Instagram, all of our social handles are also Kapture or Kapture Gear. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. But our website is where you can go purchase it.
Right on. And then same thing on YouTube, Kapture Gear, Kapture.
Yeah, Kapture Gear on YouTube.
Cool. Right on. Well, I'm going to have, like I said, again, the podcast will probably come out before this one about the highlighted gear, but I'll have, tech tip videos on this. I'll have video showing and photos of what I'm doing, with my system coming up soon on our YouTube page that people can take a look at. But, very rarely, and it's kind of funny how I was walking in to take a piss, and Rob and I started bullshitting. And I was like, oh, and I went over and took a look, and I went back to my booth, and I was like, guys, hey, we need to go over and take a serious look at this. Like, this is worthwhile. Because I'd been using, I've been using an All-in, and it's a good system. I don't have any, I like the system. There's just the downsides to that system, and so again, like when you're able to fix, whether it's one problem, 3 or 5 problems, when you're able to fix multiple issues that are out there, and that doesn't happen very often, in the outdoor world, because technology, right? We're just getting too good at what we do. So this was something where I was like, holy shit. So I was glad, as awkward as it was, to start talking to you right before I peed, Rob, and very excited about the product. We didn't talk much when we were peeing, but we did talk a little. So I will say, no homo. But no, dude,
no homo. And we were at least 2 urinals apart from each other. So just for all the listeners at home, it was good, clean fun.
I know, to make it awkward, I looked over. I was like, "Hey, I like your watch." When you're peeing, but I said European. But no, I appreciate it, fellas, and I can't speak highly enough about this, and I strongly encourage everybody to check it out.
So we appreciate that. So we're excited to have your blessing, your endorsement, if you call it that, and more so, we're excited to be a part of the academies that you're going to start doing and helping others be able to share those stories. Our motto is capture the story. There's a big difference when you go home and tell your friend, you should have seen this 4x4 muley I saw, right? It was just size massive, 24 inches wide. It was just large. And, or you go home and you show a picture of it, right? And that's 3 weeks later, you can show the picture, you send it to your friends, and you're really, as the name is, you're really capturing the ability to share that legacy and share that story. And so we're just excited to be a part of that. And hopefully people enjoy the product as much as we do. And we love feedback. So any feedback from anybody, we listen. So there's a phone number on our website, call it. You'll probably get Eric himself answering the phone calls. And we're excited to be part of the industry.
Yeah, and I will say we are going to be using this system on the different courses on the academy. So whether that's be when I'm showing you how to route plan through your adapter, or I'm filming you from 800 yards away, fuck up your stock, so you can look at it later so I can make fun of you, or whatever. We will be using this system, in promoting it, obviously, but using this system during like our stalking, glassing classes, as well as long range shooting, things like that, because it is very, very helpful tutorial, be able to film someone walking in through the spotter, as well as film obviously impacts and things like that, whether that be an animal or steel. So, again, I'm looking forward to that and excited to work with you guys. So thanks for hopping on, and thanks for making a product. Very rarely am I excited about something, and this one I was. So thanks again, and thanks for hopping on.
Well, we appreciate it. Thank you.